Hi, welcome to our channel of ignou audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Sciences, SOSS, Master's Degree Programs MA in Psychology, MAPC, Second Year MPCE 021 Counseling Psychology Block-1 Introduction Unit-2 Process of Counseling 2.0 Introduction. This unit deals with the counseling process. It starts the definition of the counseling process, what it is and the typical features of the counseling process. This is followed by steps in counseling process and the typical processes followed by counselors in this process. Then we discuss the procedures involved in the counseling process and how developing a relationship is important in this process. Then we describe the working of the counselor and the client within the relationship, and then we present the termination of this relationship when the counseling process reaches its goal. The next section deals with the factors influencing counseling process, which includes in it the structure, initiative to be taken by the client, the setting in which the counseling process takes place, the client's and the counselor's qualities. 2.1 Objectives. After completing this unit, you will be able to define the process of counseling, elucidate the steps, stages involved in the process of counseling, describe the key components involved in the different stages of counseling, discuss the steps involved in the termination process of counseling, and explain important factors influencing the counseling process. 2.2 The process of counseling. In process of counseling, the goal is established by the client. He is encouraged and assisted by the counselor to be as specific about the goal as possible. The more specific the goal, the easier the process. Since humans are generally considered to be goal-oriented, the more specific the goal, the more likely the client and the counselor will keep themselves on the path to that goal. The client narrates their experiences and problems and thus create a focus on their fear and their goal in order to assist their mind to assist them. It is also of value to the counselor to guide them in identifying their fears and apprehensions. In the process of identifying the fear, the counselor offers some alternatives while attempting to avoid interfering in the client's decision. Some of the fears are a fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection, a fear of not being enough. 2.2.1 Counseling process. Counseling can help client learn to make better decisions. It can help improve personal skills, develop greater confidence in the person's academic or work performance, define career directions, and acquire a keener awareness and appreciation of the client's needs and those of other people. With counseling, clients can improve their communication with a special person, establish more meaningful relationships, or cope more effectively with feelings of depression or anxiety. Any personal, academic, or career concern may be explored in counseling. During counseling, the client will be helped to clarify feelings and needs. The client and the counselor will work together to define realistic goals and explore available options. As the client discovers ways to make changes, he will be better able to direct his choices. Counseling is an active process, both during sessions and outside of counseling, as the client implements new skills and insights. Depending upon the intensity of concerns and level of involvement in making needed changes, clients are generally able to resolve difficulties in 4 to 8 counseling sessions. The client's personal commitment to helping him or herself is crucial to an effective counseling process. Counselors can help the clients only if they are willing to receive help, attend scheduled sessions, and engage in new ways of thinking and acting outside of the counseling setting. Counseling is a process with a beginning, a middle, and an end, where the counselor facilitates an individual to consider the aspects of their life they wish to change. The whole idea is to enable the client to explore a difficulty or distress which they may be experiencing, assisted by the counselor whose main role is to facilitate the client to make his or her own decisions on how to proceed. It is not an environment where the counselor will say what has to be done or even give advice. However, through this process, the counselor will endeavor to guide the client from feeling a victim of circumstances to feeling that they have more control over their life. There are different models of counseling, differing routes or tools to enable the client to change. Transactional analysis, TA, is a model for understanding personality, relationships, and communication. In TA counseling, people talk about their parent, adult, and child. These are distinctive parts of us all, available and necessary for living as a whole, integrated person. TA holds that everyone has intrinsic dignity and worth. They are okay. Everyone has the capacity to think. There is a commitment to change, to making decisions and taking personal responsibility for personal outcome. Clarifying the problem and the desired change encourages the person to decide how they wish to be. Often unpacking one problem may reveal its connection to another. When people start the process of counseling, they begin to experience the recurring patterns in their lives, to identify their negative feelings and how they play games and thereby limit themselves. A decision to make positive change is a further step. Someone may know what their goal is, but they have to decide to take positive action to achieve that goal. The counselor offers support and facilitation on the basis that the client has decided what he or she feels. 2.2.2 Steps in counseling process. The basic steps of counseling involve people in gaining recognition for their skills and experience, being confronted, from a caring position, by the ways they used to discount themselves and others, re-experiencing, in the present, any relevant events from the past. This can help them to obtain emotional release from feelings or beliefs to which they may be clinging, that are stopping them from meeting their immediate needs. Emphasis is given to feelings and thoughts, as stimuli for action and change. Support, challenge and practice are essential to enable all these steps to be achieved. Counseling may comprise a few sessions, or it may take longer, but it does not go on forever. In the end, the clients are helped to find the tools to enable them to think, feel and behave in the way they desire. 2.2.3 Stages of counseling process. Effective leaders use the counseling process. It consists of 4 stages. Identify the need for counseling. Prepare for counseling. Conduct counseling. Follow up. Counseling is a process that focuses on enhancing the psychological well-being of the client, such that the client is then able to reach their full potential. This is achieved by the counselor facilitating the client's personal growth, development and self-understanding, which in turn empowers the client to adopt more constructive life practices. Counseling may be helpful in a number of ways. It can enable the client to develop a clearer understanding of his or her concerns and help the client acquire new skills to better manage personal and educational issues. The counselor can offer a different perspective and help the client to think of creative solutions to problems. For the client, sharing his thoughts and feelings with someone not personally involved in his life can be most helpful. The counselor treats all the information that the clients share as confidential material. The counselors are involved in case consultations and supervision for the purposes of best practice. These meetings involve discussion of clients' concerns with the aim of formulating the best possible assessment and intervention plan. Where possible, the identifying personal information is removed from the discussion. 2.2.4 Counseling process followed by counselors. The counseling process will depend on the individual counselor, the individual client and the specific issue. However, there is a general counseling process that the counselors will follow. 1. Background information collection. 2. Identification of core issues. 3. Case formulation. 4. Goal setting for the therapeutic process. 5. Implementation of intervention. 6. Evaluation of intervention. 7. Closure prior to the initial interview. Reception staff will ask the client to complete a personal data sheet. During the initial interview, the counselor will discuss the client's concerns with him and explore with him the alternative services if indicated. By the end of the initial interview, the client and the counselor may decide on one of the following options. No further counseling is required at this time, if during the initial interview the client has been able to clarify his concerns and plan an appropriate course of action. Further appointments are needed to continue to explore the issues before reaching a decision. A second appointment will be made with the client either by the counselor or by reception. Alternative services are appropriate and the counselor will assist the client to identify specific resources to consider and pursue. Counselors work from differing theoretical approaches. Different counselors will place varying levels of emphasis on behavior, on thinking and/or on emotional aspects. All counselors have the central goal to assist the client in increasing his or her sense of well-being. Change does not happen quickly for most of us. The length of treatment depends on a number of variables. Variables include the severity of the problem, the motivation of the client, the type of problem and the age of the client. The more focused and limited the problem being addressed, the shorter treatment can be. The more the treatment addresses healing emotional injuries, the longer it is likely to take. If the client feels dissatisfied with any aspect of the counseling services, they are encouraged to discuss their concerns with the senior counselor. 2.2.5 Procedure in the counseling process. 1. Establish a safe, trusting environment. 2. Help the person put their concern into words. 3. Active listening. Find out the client's agenda. A. Paraphrase, summarize, reflect, interpret. B. Focus on feelings, not events. 4. Transform problem statements into goal statements. 5. Explore possible approaches to goal. 6. Help person choose one way towards goal. 7. Make a contract to fulfill the plan, or to take the next step. 8. Summarize what has occurred, clarify, get verification. 9. Get feedback and confirmation. In general, a counselor will listen to the client without butting in or imposing their own values and beliefs on him or her. They will give the client the needed space to explore their thoughts, feelings, or behavior, whatever they are. People can find it helpful just to have their concerns taken seriously. The counselor may also employ a variety of techniques to help the clients understand their feelings. For instance, the counselor may ask questions designed to reflect back to the clients their thought processes and to help them make sense of their feelings. The client thus might explore and implement changes in the way he or she does things, and then can go on to enhance his life or his relationship. Counseling is a process guided by theory. Process can refer to what the counselor does with the client as well as how change occurs within the client. The process of counseling develops in definable stages with recognizable transitions. There is a natural progression that takes place within the context of the helping relationship. This process enables the counselor and the client to build a relationship, assess the situation, set goals, and come up with a plan to bring about the desired results. This progression is known as the counseling process. The process of counseling is dynamic in nature. The effectiveness of counseling ultimately depends upon how the process of counseling happens. It can be said to start with rapport establishment, then progress through problem identification, goal setting, intervention, and then finally follow up. Broadly, 3 major stages in the process can be described as follows: 1. Developing a relationship. 2. Working in a relationship. And 3. Terminating a relationship. Each stage has its own universal qualities and problems associated with it. Counselors must be aware of the problems involved in the process of counseling. Now let us discuss each stage in the process of counseling. 2.2.6 Developing a relationship. Building a relationship. The first stage in the process of counseling is a continuous process. It begins by having the counselor win the battle for structure and client win the battle for initiative. In such situations, both parties are winners. The client wins by becoming more informed about the nature of counseling and learning what to expect. The counselor wins by creating an atmosphere where the client is comfortable about sharing thoughts and feelings. In order to develop positive helping relationships with the client, the counselor has to connect with them. This can only happen when they are made to feel like the counselor genuinely cares about the client's well-being and that the counselor understands why the clients are coming and the causes thereof. It is about behaving and demonstrating the core conditions of genuineness, respect, and empathy. To develop solid relationships, the counselor needs to create a safe environment where they will feel comfortable enough to open up and talk to the counselor about anything that is on their minds. The counselor also needs to help them see that despite their circumstances, they have strengths. Early stages of the counseling relationship afford the chance to build counselor understanding of client and issues faced. The counselor is advised to use listening skills and attend to non-verbal communication. The counselor should not be judgmental in his decisions and jump to conclusions immediately. Certain tasks to be taken care of by the counselors are laying foundations for trust, establishing the structure and form the relationship will take, informed consent process, articulating roles of counselor and client, and developing a collaborative working alliance. The getting to know you phase is the most critical stage of the relationship. The counselor should work on the following things during this stage. 1. Developing rapport and building trust. 2. Create core conditions necessary for counseling. 1. Developing rapport and building trust. Predictability and consistency. During the first stage of the relationship, it is critical to be both predictable and consistent. If the counselor schedules an appointment to meet the client at a certain time, it's important to keep it. It is understandable that at times things come up and appointments cannot be kept. Consistency is the key to speed up the trust-building process. Testing. Young people generally do not trust adults. As a result, they use testing as a coping or defense mechanism to determine whether they can trust the counselor. They will test to see if the counselor really cares about them. A client might test the counselor by not reaching for a scheduled meeting to see how the counselor will react. Establish confidentiality. During the first stage of the relationship, it is important to establish confidentiality with one's client. This helps in developing trust. The counselor should let the client know that whatever he or she wants to share with the counselor will remain confidential, as long as, and it's important to stress this point, what the client tells the counselor is not going to harm the client or someone else. It's helpful to stress this upfront, within the first few meetings with the client. Later on, if the counselor needs to break the confidence because the information the client shared was going to harm him or her or someone else, the client will not feel betrayed. Goal setting transitions into stage 2. It is helpful during stage 1 to take the time to set at least one achievable goal together for the relationship. What do the client and counselor want to get out of this relationship? It is also good to help the client set personal goals. Sometimes the client does not know how to set goals, and this will provide them with the opportunity to set goals and work toward achieving them. 2. Core conditions necessary for successful counseling. Rogers, 1957, originally proposed core conditions needed in building a relationship. I. Empathetic understanding. Empathy promotes rapport and relationship. E. Unconditional positive regard, considering client as person of worth and is separate from actions. E. Congruence, showing genuine self in client interaction. Kharkov, 1969, adds to these. I. Respect, it strengthens the focus. E. Confrontation, it promotes realistic and accurate view. E. Immediacy, consideration of problem with here and now attitude. IV. Concreteness, paying attention on what is practical in the process. V. Self-disclosure, promoting positive perception and appropriate focus in counseling relationship. 2.2.7 Working in a relationship. The successful outcome of any counseling process depends on a working alliance between counselor and the client. This occurs after clients and counselors have established a relationship and explored possible goals towards which to work. Once trust has been established, the relationship moves into stage 2. These phases are facilitated by mutual interaction between the individuals involved. The counselor can help the client by appropriate leads, challenges to perception, multi-focused responding, accurate empathy, self-disclosure, immediacy, confrontation, contacts and rehearsal. I. Changing perceptions. Clients often come to counselor as a last resort when they think that situation is not only serious but hopeless. Counselors can help clients change their distorted or unrealistic perceptions by offering them an opportunity to explore thoughts within a safe, accepting and in a non-judgmental atmosphere. Perceptions commonly change through the process of reframing, which offers the client another probable and positive viewpoint of what a situation is or why an event might have happened. E. Leading changing clients' perceptions requires a high degree of persuasive skill and some direction from the counselor. Such input is known as leading. E. Accurate empathy. Use of empathy is one of the most vital elements in the counseling. Empathy is the counselor's ability to experience the client's world as if it were your own without ever using the quality. Two components of empathy are A. Empathic rapport. This refers to accurately sensing and being able to see the client's world the way they do. B. Communicative attunement. This refers to verbally sharing one's understanding with the client. There are two types of empathy. 1. Primary empathy. The ability to respond in such a way that is apparent to both client and counselor that the counselor has understood the client's major themes. 2. Advanced empathy. It is a process of helping a client explore themes, issues and emotions new to his or her awareness. IV. Self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is an important way to let clients know the counselor as a person. Self-disclosure at a moderate level is seen more positively by clients than disclosure at a high or low level. Edwards and Murdoch, 1994. In moderation, it is helpful for the counselor to disclose facts about himself, if it serves the needs of the session client. Self-disclosure takes the following forms: the counselor's own problems, facts about the counselor's role, the counselor's reactions to the client, feedback, the counselor's reactions to the counselor-client relationship. V. Positive regard. Client revelations must be protected from counselors' personal reactions, especially rejection or disdain. The counselors should express appreciation of the client as a unique and worthwhile person and embrace the client's ethnic self as well as other experiences that have shaped the client's worldview. V. Responding styles. Counseling is often perceived as just focusing on feelings, but it is not true. While counseling helps people work through feelings, how one responds and communicates with others will affect how the counselor responds to the client. There are different responding styles of the clients. 1. Affective responding. This focuses on feelings. 2. Behavioral responding. This focuses on actions and behaviors. 3. Cognitive response. This focuses on thoughts and cognitions. The counselor will balance these throughout the session with the client. V. Immediacy. This involves a counselor's understanding and communicating of what is going on between the counselor and client within the helping relationship. There are two types of immediacy. 1. Relationship immediacy. Between client and counselor. 2. Here and now. Immediacy focuses on some particular event in the session. V. Humor. Humor can have a positive effect on the counseling process when used properly. It must be used with sensitivity and timing. It does not demean and is supportive. A session is not a time to try out a new joke heard at lunch. X. Confrontation. This is not skill at putting the client down for doing something wrong. This is an invitation to the client to look more closely at behavior that is not working or interfering with growth, change, or healthy functioning. X. Transference and counter-transference, a concept as old as Freud. Transference and counter-transference are issues that affect all forms of counseling, guidance, and psychotherapy. Transference. This is the client's projection of past or present feelings, attitudes, or desires onto the counselor. It can be direct or indirect and will cause the client to react to the counselor as they would in the past or present relationship. Counter-transference. This is the counselor's projected emotional reaction to or behavior towards the client. It can take on many forms, from a desire to please the client, to wanting to develop a social or sexual relationship with the client. When this happens, supervision or counseling for the counselor is called for. 2.2.8 Terminating a relationship. Termination is an important, though often misunderstood phase of counseling. This is often ignored or taken for granted. Yet successful termination is vital for the well-being of client as well as counselor. Termination is the end of the professional relationship with the client when the session goals have been met. It is a phase of counseling that can determine the success of all previous phases and must be handled skillfully. A formal termination serves three functions. Counseling is finished and it is time for the client to face their life challenges. Changes which have taken place have generalized into the normal behavior of the client. The client has matured and thinks and acts more effectively and independently. Timing of termination. There is no one answer when termination is to take place. Questions the counselor may wish to ask concerning termination include: have clients achieved behavioral, cognitive, or affective goals? Can clients concretely show where they have made progress in what they wanted to accomplish? Is the counseling relationship helpful? Has the context of the initial counseling arrangements changed? Resistance to termination. Clients and counselors may not want counseling to end. In many cases, this may be the result of feelings about the loss and grief or insecurities of losing the relationship. For clients, this is something to process. For counselors, this is an issue for supervision. Premature termination. Many clients may end counseling before all goals are completed. This can be seen by not making appointments, resisting new appointments, etc. It is a good idea to try and schedule a termination review session with the client so closure may take place. At this time, a referral may be in order. Counselors. At times, counselors have to end counseling prematurely. Whatever the reason for the termination, a summary session is in order and referrals are made, if appropriate, to another counselor. Referrals. At times, a counselor needs to make a referral. When this is done, specific issues need to be addressed with the client. Reasons for the referrals. Note specific behaviors or actions which brought the need for a referral. Have the names of several other counselors ready for referral. It is important to remember that the counselor cannot follow up with the new counselor to see if the client followed through. Confidentiality issue. Follow-up. At times, a follow-up may be scheduled for various reasons including evaluation, research, or checking with client. It needs to be scheduled so as to not take the responsibility of change away from the client. 2.3 Factors influencing counseling process. The counseling process is influenced by several factors. The counselor need to know these so that he can help it better make the counseling time a productive one both for the client and counselor. The major factors which influence the counseling process are as follows. 2.3.1 Structure. Structure in counseling is defined as the joint understanding between the counselor and client regarding the characteristics, conditions, procedures, and parameters of counseling. Day and Sparatio, 1980, p.246. It helps in clarify the counselor-client relationship and give it direction. It protects the rights, roles and obligations of both counselors and clients and ensure the success of counseling. Structure gives form to what the formal process will look like. Practical guidelines are part of building structure. They include time limit of the session, action limits for the prevention of destructive behavior, role limits and procedural limits. Counseling moves forward when client and counselor know the boundaries of the relationship and what is expected. Structure is provided throughout all stages of counseling but is especially important at the beginning. Its importance is most obvious when the client arrives for counseling with unrealistic expectations or with no idea what to expect. Counselors need to stay flexible and continually negotiate the nature of structure with their clients. 2.3.2 Initiative can be thought of as the motivation to change. Majority of the clients who visit the counselors are reluctant to some degree. Such clients lack initiative. Some counselors become impatient, irritated and insensitive and may ultimately give up trying to work with such clients. Many counselors end up blaming either themselves or their clients. A role reversal exercise can help the counselor to understand the mental state of the involuntary, reluctant, and resistant client. A reluctant client is one who has been referred by the third party and is frequently unmotivated to seek help. They do not wish to be in counseling. Many reluctant clients terminate counseling prematurely and report dissatisfaction with the process. A resistant client is one who is unwilling or opposed to change. Such an individual may actively seek counseling but does not wish to go through the pain that change demands. There are several ways in which counselors can help clients to win the battle for initiative and achieve success in counseling. One way is to anticipate the anger, frustration, and defensiveness that some clients display. A second way is to show acceptance, patience, and understanding as well as non-judgmental attitude. A third way is to use persuasion, and the fourth way is through confrontation. 2.3.3 Setting counseling can happen anywhere, but some physical settings promote the process better than others. Among the most important factors that help or hurt the process is the place where the counseling occurs. The room should be comfortable and attractive with soft lighting, quiet colors, an absence of clutter, and harmonious and comfortable furniture. The professional generally works in a place that provides privacy, confidentiality, quiet, and comfort. When working with a client, a counselor must want to send a message that he is listening. This can be done by being attentive both verbally and non-verbally. A distance of 30 to 39 inches is the average range of comfort between counselor and clients of both genders. In addition to the above arrangements, the counselors should not be interrupted during sessions. The counselor should keep in mind the SOLAR technique. SOLAR is an acronym which serves to remind the counselors how to listen. S. Face the client squarely, that is, adopt a posture that indicates involvement. O. Adopt an open posture. Sit with both feet on the ground to begin with and with your hands folded, one over the other. L. As you face your client, lean toward him or her. Be aware of their space needs. E. Maintain eye contact. Looking away or down suggests that you are bored or ashamed of what the client is saying. Looking at the person suggests that you are interested and concerned. R. As the counselor incorporates these skills into the attending listening skills, relax. 2.3.4 Client Qualities Counseling relationship starts with first impressions. The way the counselor and the client perceive one another is vital to the establishment of a productive relationship. Counselors generally like to work with clients who are most like them. They are influenced by the physical characteristics of one's best work to all clients. The clients come in all shapes and sizes, personality characteristics, and degree of attractiveness. The most successful candidates are said to be YAVIS, young, attractive, verbal, intelligent, and successful. Schofield, 1964. Less successful clients are seen as hound, homely, old, unintelligent, nonverbal, and disadvantaged, or dud, dumb, unintelligent, and disadvantaged. Allen, 1977. A counselor must consider a client's body gestures, eye contact, facial expressions, and vocal quality to be as important as verbal communication. Cultural background of the client should keep in mind while evaluating the non-verbal communication. 2.3.5 Counselors' qualities. The personal and professional qualities are very important in building up relationship with the client. Okun, 1992, lists 5 important characteristics that counselors must possess: self-awareness, honesty, congruence, ability to communicate, and knowledge. Clients, depending on their culture, initially like to work with counselors who are perceived as experts, attractive, and trustworthy. Expertness is the degree to which a counselor is perceived as knowledgeable and informed about his or her specialty. Attractiveness is a function of perceived similarity between a client and a counselor. Counselors can make themselves attractive by speaking in clear, simple sentences and offering appropriate self-disclosure. Trustworthiness is related to the sincerity and consistency of the counselor. The counselor is genuinely concerned about the client and shows it over time by establishing a close relationship with the client. 2.4 Summary. The process of counseling develops in definable stages with recognizable transitions. There is a natural progression that takes place within the context of the helping relationship. There are certain important factors that influence the counseling process. The major are structure, initiative, setting, client qualities, and counselor qualities. The process of counseling occurs in stages like developing a relationship, working in a relationship, terminating a relationship. The counselor has to keep certain tasks in mind, such as laying foundations for trust, establishing the structure and form the relationship will take in its first stage of building relationship. Empathetic understanding, unconditional positive regard, and congruence are certain core conditions which are mandatory for successful counseling. The last phase includes termination, which is the end of the professional relationship with the client when the session goals have been met. It is a phase of counseling that can determine the success of all previous phases and must be handled skillfully. Counseling cannot be considered complete and successful without the follow-up procedure. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.